So welcome to this video. This is a recap of a session I run in the past. The focus on this session is how we can use Blender for scaling, rotating, exporting existing data such as a 3D scan or a model you bought on the internet. Okay, let's start. I don't want to have this cube, so I delete my cube with the help of the X key. Let me switch on my shortcut keys. Okay, so you can see what I'm doing. I'm going to import the STL file. So here we have our STL file. So what I want to do in this exercise, I just want to make it stand upright. And I want to scale it half the size. So just going to look from the front or from the right to be more precise. I'm going to make sure that my side panel is activated. You can do it with the N key. And I really like shortcuts, so just going to rotate it now with the R key. So rotate my hand like so. If you're more someone who likes more the use of icons, you can go here. So this is the rotate icon, but I highly recommend using shortcuts because it's really fast. So I'm just going to look on the other side if I'm happy with it. I want it to be straight from all the sides. So again, I use the R key to rotate it. And like, yeah, I'm happy with this. This is nice and straight. I also want to know how big it is. So if you look here, you see the dimensions. Well, you can see the Z-axis is upright here. That doesn't look right because this should be, the Z-axis should be the tallest dimension, and that's not the case. So what we want to do is we want to what's called applying the scale and the rotation. So pay close attention to the menu on the right. And if I do that, you see the dimensions update. So again, if I do R, you see this doesn't update. So just going to do undo again. So you want to make sure, just to repeat myself again, you always apply the rotation and the scale if you want to know how big something is. Well, there's also another way if you want to find out how big something is, and that is with the help of this tool, the measure tool. You can just draw a line like so, and then you get some measurements. So there's also a snap function built in with this. So if I hold my Control key on my keyboard and then I grab the end of the line, let's say I want to know the wrist, how much that is. Again, I hold down Control and then it snaps. And then you see like a dimension of our wrist, or not our wrist, the wrist of the 3D scan. What's also a nice function is that you can use the same tool to measure angles. So what I could do, if I draw another line and then in the middle of the line I click, you see it makes another point, and then I can go here again and here, and then it gives a value of an angle. So let's say I want to know this angle here. You can do it as well like so. So now we know this angle, but if we look close, you see it's not really touching. So again, with the Control key, we can snap. And then we are like a little bit more accurate. So this tool is great if you want to make local dimensions. However, you want to be aware that we don't know if this line is straight or not. So if it's not straight, it has another dimension. So this is a good tool, but only if you want to have like an approximate dimension. There's good news though, because there's an add-on available called Measure It, and that allows you a little bit more precision. But it's something that you need to install as an add-on in Blender. So now we have rotated our object. I showed you some measurements. There was something else that I want to show you, and that is scaling. So by the way, if you don't want to see these measurements anymore, you can go here, then they disappear. So now I want to demonstrate you scaling. So I want to scale it half the size. How can I do that? Well, I type S on my keyboard and then 0.5, and then my model is half the size. If you want your model to be double the size, what you can do is S from scale on your keyboard and then 2. So now we're back to the original size. Now, if you want this hand to be, I don't know, 10% bigger, what you can do is S 1.1, and I can do undo. And what if you want this hand to be 10 times as big? Then you can do S10, and now it's really big. So you see, if your object gets really big, sometimes you get a bit lost in space. That means because Blender is clipping. What you can do in that case is you go to View, Clipping, Start Clipping End, and you just add a few zeros, and then we see the whole object. So that's something you want to keep in mind. It looks still a bit weird. There's still some clipping issues. And I'm going to go back to this menu, and yeah, so that's how we can scale it 10 times. If we want to make it smaller again, we can do S 0.1. And there we have our hand again. And then we have our hand again at our original size. However, for this example, I want to scale it half the size. Let's say I want to print it on a small 3D printer. What I do then is S 0.5. So now my model is half the size. Let's say I'm happy with all this, I can export my model. So what I do is go to File, Export, STL, and then I can put it on the desktop, for example. Okay, that's how you can get some basic dimensions of a model, and also how you can scale and export a model.